Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana on this March 30, 29, 2024, Friday of Good Friday. Well, today I'm going to talk about maker realities and new R&D. Part of the thing why I'm talking about maker realities is because there's some things that have happened. When you look at the background, you see that my background has changed. Part of the reason why my background has changed was I had part of my maker workshop in my bedroom, and I was told that I couldn't keep it in my bedroom because there's something about it not with the closet not being accessible, even though the table swings out. So you can see I had to move the workbench out to the living room, where you can see the computer, one of two sewing machines, and this brings up an important point. There are other makers who live in various cities, New York, Los Angeles, and others, but mostly makers in New York that I've watched on YouTube who discuss about people ask them, how do you live in a New York apartment and still maintain your maker shop? Like when I watched Becky Stern when she showed her maker shop. And it's even in the Midwest here, we're starting to get into New York type uh, intrusions because I've had to go to actually installing a locked file cabinet and lock cabinets for some of my maker stuff because when we have people come in and basically do routine spraying of the building or other things, nowadays they put on their notice that they're not bonded, so please lock up all your valuables, where compared to before they were bonded. So um, and that includes even locking up my tools, basically oscilloscopes, function generators, and other things. And the other thing is, even with my wall, I had to take some things off my wall because they claimed the wall was cluttered. And this month, I'm getting getting a space to put some stuff in there just to make sure that's secure. In addition to what I have other security things with. So when you're a maker, you sometimes have to understand the musings of management because a month ago we had a new management policy that came in place in our building. One manager who was here, she was loved by everybody, was suddenly terminated, and it was a very traumatic scene for everybody. We held a going away party for everyone, donated money to help her. I donated money, others donated money to help her, and the new management came in and basically it was part of the thing is new management policy about taking pictures of your apartment over your objections and other things. Well, the reason why I mention this is because if you're a maker and other stuff, um, I think it is a good idea to make sure if you do live in an apartment or a condo or someplace, make sure you have a space. Make sure you have places where you can keep your projects locked up and your tools locked up. Because even though they claim they'll watch these guys when they come in, sometimes they don't. And that and the other thing is also you have a right to your own privacy. You don't need to know what someone is seeing because sometimes when people see stuff like, for example, um, this is a project that I told everyone about a few months ago. This is the keyboard chip project. It actually has where you can it actually has a keyboard with the keys on the left are for the data D0 D7. The keys on the right are for the address bus A0 through A13. And it's like a punch card thing. Put the keyboard in, put the chip in, and then what happens is basically then you just can program it a byte at a time. Well, what's the benefit of programming this a byte at a time? Well, sometimes if you just want to make simple modifications, you can. Also, this is passive. You don't need a computer to use it. You can use this without a computer. As you can see, it has a lot of wires and other stuff and necessary connections. But if you have someone who's inspecting your apartment that doesn't understand electronics or something else, they'll think that this is basically something like from from sleeper cell or something like this, and they'll panic and they'll do everything else. So this is part of the reason why when you do electronic projects in an apartment, you need to have it locked up, just so someone doesn't try to take it. But this one does work. It's tested. I'll be putting it out for sale soon, and I'm hoping to be able to make a PCB board so this is miniaturized. And I think this will be a great benefit and value to everyone. Well, let me know what you think in the comments. And now, when we consider other things like that, though, um, just remember. Also consider about your where you're gonna get your parts and how you're gonna do your funding. For example, in the State of the Union address, President Biden talked about this chip development bill. And I've been listening to various newscasts on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat. Excuse me. What happens and the comments I hear from most businesses about the Chip Development Act is there are many flaws. Well, first thing, let me just go through some of the flaws like that. It sounds good in principle. The government's going to grant you money to build a chip business in the U.S. and they claim they're going to give you support. But the thing is, there's some caveats. Let's mention some of the caveats first. Okay, you want to build a business. All right. Well, first thing you got to do is you gotta have a diversity, equity, inclusion officer. So you have to have someone that's not familiar with the business telling you how to run your business and your employees. It's not even a representative that's elected by people who work for you. It's worse than it's not even like a union representative who knows the business. Like in the auto industry, there's a union representative, but the union representative has worked with the business, whether it's Ford, Chrysler, or GM. They've worked with the business. DEI officer, they don't know anything. They may not know anything about your business, but yet you got to listen to them if you want to keep getting the government grant. Second part is you have to go to renewable energy sources. Okay, well, we've seen, government's talking about everyone going to electric cars and other things like this. Where I live in we've seen a city of 70,000. Southeast Wisconsin is part of the Milwaukee, Chicago mega city of 8 million people. But in this section of Wisconsin on the lakefront, there's only two places where you can charge an electric car. There's one place up on Spring Street, and there's one place up by one electric station by Walmart. Even though it's a city of 100,000. In Kenosha, there aren't any. And in Milwaukee, well, a lot of people go to IKEA to charge up their cars because they have a thing in the solar panel in the parking lot. Now this is an overall population of basically close to 2 million people, and there's only 3 major charging stations that are known now. And part of this chip is you have to use renewable energy. Okay, well, people pay a lot, and businesses pay a lot to get energy from different sources, whether it's ComEd or Wisconsin Electric. And well, when you use renewable energy, your renewable energy costs may go up to 4 times more than what you're paying now to try to run your business. The other thing is you have to put your business on land that's deemed renewable development land. Okay, well, we've seen what happens. That's where Foxconn was planning to build and expand, and Foxconn is out, and there's others out there, but it's very expensive land to build because basically there's very low infrastructure. There's only bus service that goes out there once in the morning and once in the afternoon. Talk about trying to make a clean workforce. There's no bus. Remember this. The people here, even though many of them are from Danish and from Scandinavian countries, there is no Scandinavian thinking as far as public transportation access. You can actually get around easier in Scandinavia than you could here, and even in upper parts of Sweden than you could around here. And so the thing is, that's the other part. And the next part is they say, well, okay, well, you have to hire people to have questionable records. That's great. Many Republicans and all Republicans, even when we rented our apartments, we rented to people that weren't perfect. And sometimes our neighbors would complain. They say, well, you should have went to these people because, they're not perfect and they had a history. Our point is like this. Look, you stop doing what you're doing that got you in trouble. Fine. Okay. Um, Welcome aboard. As long as you do that, well, we can help you. And eventually some people were able to buy their own homes and other stuff. And for businesses, I think that's great. But the way the current law, from what I heard from different types of analysis about hiring people with trouble past, there's no, I haven't heard any discussion about there's a condition that they have to stop doing the bad habits that they're doing, whether it's associated with gang members or whether it's this or that. Um, it's a two-way street. There's rights and responsibilities. Yes, what help is willing to begin, but also the person has to take personal responsibility for themselves. They can't say, well, the moon made me do this, or the sun made me do this, or the sky was purple, or something. You got to take personal responsibility. And someone takes it, fine, it's great. And Republicans have always done this all the time. And I even tell people when people ask me, they say, well, how do I improve my quality of life? Become a Republican, because basically you'll run into people who want to help you. They will help you. And also they're not going to charge you. They're not gonna do like some arbitrary price. We want you to pay so much, or just remember on election day who to vote for. It's they sort of tell you as a suggestion, but it's really meant if you don't vote for that person, uh, good luck getting help the next time, like that. Also, that's why with this chip bill, I think there needs to be some work on it, like that. Though now, part of the reason why I mentioned this chip bill is like this is a new project that I'm starting. This is basically um, a Z80 retro computer that has a MCP 2317 and a latch, as well as a chip for burning, and and also basically keyboard control, like that though, keyboard keyboard control, and a screen. So you can, but it's also made to be worked on with the terminal basis too. So I'm thinking of a Python interface or something. But when you look at this, what does it take to make this? Okay, well, this is two breadboards, foam board, some wires, different components. Now, when we buy these components, um, many people say, well, great, you know, you should always buy from certain companies. Well, that's true, but many of us who are makers, we don't have a large budget. Many of us are doing this on maybe $20 or $40 a month to do this thing, you know, and if you buy chips from some online sites like this, like some of these chips, like for example this memory chip, if you would buy it from one online site, it's about $8.95 per chip. But if you buy it from another online site, it's $8.95 for 10 chips. And what happens is this vendor is authorized to sell in the United States. You just have to wait a little bit sometimes, but they're good. And that's why I use a variety of vendors: AliExpress, Temu, Mulser, let's see, Electronics Express, DigiKey. And what I do is I look for who has the best deal and who has the best delivery. Because what you have to consider those also delivery price. Because what happens, you see a price, but then $7.95 delivery or something. And like Amazon, if you have Prime, you get free delivery. With AliExpress, certain things you get free delivery, but you have to wait a little bit sometimes. Also, nice thing about AliExpress is if you order multiple things, they'll ship it all together in one order. So that's why sometimes you have to wait just a little bit, but and that's nice. And with Electronics Express and others, some of them do have reduced shipping. Um, but also, when I buy stuff, I look at where I can get the best quality and best support. And like I said, Mulser, Electronics Express, DigiKey, AliExpress, Temu have all been good. Have all been my go-tos. But most of the time, I do the budget. And I'll also do also because of the service, I go more to AliExpress to get my bulk chips because this allows me to do things faster. Because at $20 or $40 a month, if I had to do that, just paying $6 to $7 per chip, this would take a long time to do before I could get all this money together. Because this would come up to, I see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, that'd come out to $88. I mean, it'd take me 4 months just press the breadboard. 12. So that'd take me $84. So that'd take me at least 5 months to get the money just to build this, compared to having, if I go order through AliExpress, I can get all this and build this right away. But the point is, we have to, as makers and other things, we have to consider different things about companies and company support. All these companies mentioned have great support. I've worked with them. I have a good relationship with them. And what happens when I do support local industry, and I do support others. Now this is another project that I recently we just have to write the software for. Now this one is based upon using a programmer for 29 series. So the idea is basically you have this pluggable EEPROM where you can actually transfer data directly to it, or basically I could use a terminal interface right here, basically to connect to it. You can see it has a built-in status screen, and the built-in status screen is so that you can use the switch register. Let me put it on this way. You can use the switch register to basically send commands, and this is the enter key. You press the enter key when the command is entered, and then the processor works it. And you can see it has a 0 and 4 source socket. Again, though, but when I build these things and others, we have to consider our budget, and also where we can get delivery, because sometimes you have to think about, can you get delivered where you order from, like that, though, because and what I say to that is basically this is where it's good, either depending on what country you live in. I'll give you the United States example. Basically, if you have issues with delivery or other stuff, it's better sometimes just to get like a U.S. Post box to send items to, or UPS box or something, or even a FedEx office box to send things to, because sometimes if you live in an area where you're not sure whether your packages are going to be there because of porch pirates, or basically it's hard for someone to deliver a package to where you're living, that's where having a FedEx box or a post office box or UPS box is great. Now, what I do when I get to a final step is I make a board of this. Now this is a dual processor board. This has an ESP8266 Node MCU V3, a Z80 processor. This is an 8255 control chip. And basically these are two other ports for adding this one's another 8255 control chip. And these are two banks to put memory in. So basically you could design with bank switch memory and DIP settings, so you can set the DIP. Now this is wire wrap because in my apartment I can't solder because we have a fire alarm system that would go off if I did. So as you can see, what I do is I use glue to glue it in, and then I wire wrap these. Some of these I think I can get most of these wire wrapped, but others I think I'm going to have to figure out a different way how to get the pins extended, or do like I do at Electronic Express, is by wire wrap sockets, which makes the sockets as long as this. Now again, when I do this, you have to think of how are you going to order this, how are you going to make it, and again, going back to the CHIP Act. Okay, if I were to follow all the restrictions of the CHIP Act, that fee I mentioned about $87 to build that last project. Well, if I follow all the fees of CHIP Act, it's going to come out to $320. And someone says, oh, well, you shouldn't have to worry. That's government money. That's money. That's money that the government's going to grant you to build this and everything. That's fine. But the problem is as many people know who work with government services and government things, is how long does it take for them to get the check to you? Because I mean, many people who requisition things, even when I worked as associate vice president for the Society for Computer Simulation as a liaison to the Air Force, there are many times at conferences I talked with people and they would tell me, this they say, well, we put this requisition in, and what happens is, and they'd ask me because the person who was head of the Department of Defense at that time was a congressman from my district, and they'd ask me, I said, God, it says, why does it take so long? Why do we always get underbid or budgets penciled down by stubby pencil people? And one person even showed me like some of the products that they had to substitute when the stubby pencil people stubbied it down. It was a product that was poorly made, that didn't work, that was very problematic, and basically for basically $2 more, they could have had everything, and they could have done everything they wanted to do and everything on schedule, and it's like, and I said, well, I understand. Says, we've had the same, and even like other things that happen, like when there are mishaps due to failed military equipment. Sometimes people wonder if it is due to stubby pencil thinking like that, though. And so that's the reason why, as a maker, even as a retired executive and founder of two of my own companies, in addition to the family businesses of apartment lending and road construction. Why that's why you have to consider what you're going to, when someone offers you a grant, you have to consider the terms like that, though. And just to show you, see one other thing on here. Let's see. Now this is a project where I just used 595s to program a chip, and you can see I have two data lamps down here for data and control with the status screen and a switch register right there, and also another switch register there too. But I post on foam board. It's always good to have a solid surface to post this on. But again, all this costs money, because if you buy the foam board, some places charge you $5 for foam board, other places charge you $1.25 for a sheet of foam board. I mean, it's not penny pinching to try to, but you do have to watch your cost, and I do keep a recycle bin of like wires and other parts that when I use for project or don't use, I keep them in, and then I put them back in a parts storage case like that, though, to keep my parts and components organized. But when you live in an apartment, you have to, sometimes you have to put things in the tub, because basically the reason why I put things in the tub is because when you have people that come along to do routine maintenance of the apartment, you don't want someone coming in and saying, well, oh, this looks cute. What happened? What would happen if I pulled this whale out, or something like that, though? Well, I mean, they wouldn't get hurt, but then when you come back and then you have to figure out where this wire goes, or even like, well, or something like, oh, I dropped it. I hope it still works. And that, that's why I, as a maker, if you live in an apartment or live in a condo or something, make sure you have a tub in a locked area. And even with your workbench, make sure your workbench, as you see here is mine, that's accessible, that they can see the baseboards and other things, because they'll make a fuss if they can't see the base. And even with my bookcase, I had to take the books out of the lower part of my bookcase to make sure that they could see the baseboards. And I had to move some things far away from the wall so that they could access it. So it's important to understand the rules where you live, because even the Midwest, we're starting to get into very intrusive rules, and it does uh, sort of make you think about when you do stuff. Part of the thing, um, what I do with my maker projects is I work with everyone to try to follow the rules, and basically to to do what can be done. Like with the two sewing machines, I do sewing as a hobby as well. Like recently, I deconstructed some skirts that I liked so that they could fit me. And in addition to doing other things, because you can see the placebo thing in the background. I buy a lot of stuff from Placebo like that though, and I like the catchphrases, the 4 words about being creative. I love that. So when you do as a maker, even with government policy like the CHIP Act, I do think the CHIP Act needs to be reworked, because from a practical point of view, um, I think it is unworkable, because not just because of cost, but just because of operations too. Because the thing is, when you have people work on a project, it is working as a team, and you have to be able to make sure that there's responsibility of all team members. You just can't have someone say, "Well, I'm woke, and I know my rights and such and such and such and such." It's like, do we have to go through this? We have a deadline to meet, such and such, and it's like, we understand your rights, and now everything, and that's why we're we have you as part of the team. We don't want to infringe upon your rights, but when you do something that's that's very bad, then what else is there left to do? And the whole thing is basically, um, the makers, like Arduino, whether Arduino, Raspberry Pi, um, or others, um, basically they have really made a big impact. And I mean, I started doing this during COVID like this, because with the lockdown and everything, I started getting more into it, as well as getting into sewing, and this is great. And what happens, but we need to make sure that with what we're doing as far as government policy, that we can do things, that we don't make it so intrusive, because there is a point that former President Trump did bring out about laws making us very uncompetitive, because basically they are hyper intrusive compared to other parts of the world that make the same products and stuff. We got to have sane laws, because sometimes it's like, I saw an article in Washington Courier about the railroad station in Washington D.C. Um, like, for example, you mentioned historically it took 3 years to finish the Transcontinental Railroad between Iowa and Oakland. But yet with this um, railroad station, so far it's been 9 years and going, because of all the paperwork, red tape, delays, and everything. As a maker, if I had to fill out paperwork and everything, and red tape, as they did with this train station, this thing would only exist with the blank board, nothing else on here. I could have drawings, I could have everything else, but I could have no test. And if I did same thing, if I had to go through all this ridiculous red tape like this, like they want on the CHIP Act, this thing wouldn't have been built. This thing would still be in conception stage. Um, so, to buy this, people, if you're listening, remember, it's like Steve Jobs once said, when he read Jack Kerouac's things, basically, the misfits. We are the misfits. We're not fond of rules. We're not fond of excessive monitoring. We like to create. We like to do our stuff, and also we do realize to follow the rules of the community, but we don't like those who like to try to play God, or play inspector dearest or government official dearest. So, we work this CHIP Act because basically the way it is, it's not workable for me, and it's not workable for many other small businesses or even medium-sized businesses as well as large businesses in this country. Because what happens is it's more than just cost. It's also operations. You got to have operations because like when I build this, and even when I get to the point of mass producing this, when I hire people, I get to the point of being able to hire people to do this. Um, I can't afford to have someone as a supervisor look over everyone's shoulder and say, "Well, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you doing?" I mean, it's going to be. I trust that you take the dedication, quality to put things in the right place, to put it together, and take pride in your work. I trust that, and I understand. Basically there are problems at home and other stuff. And well, what I would do is I do the same thing that American Motors used to do, and Digital Equipment and other forward thinking companies used to do. Let's see what we can do to help. Not necessarily government solution, but private sector solution, like with DEC, Digital Equipment. Um, there are many women on the board of DEC. There was actually a credit union established. There was I think educational programs, even changes in working relationships. So mothers who are working that were pregnant or had kids in schools, they could arrange times so that basically that still will allow them to be mothers and still also earn an income. Very progressive. In American Motors, like when people worked at American Motors, um, soon as people became full time, American Motors co-signed the mortgage on many homes in Kenosha. That's why Kenosha had a very high ownership rate for many years. It doesn't now because of basically carpetbaggers from Chicago that have come in and are trying to gentrify Kenosha and force the original labor families out. But before that, Kenosha really had high ownership. We had great arts program in music. Many of us were either in band, orchestra, or choir. I was in orchestra, played first violin, was concertmaster, won multiple awards, was part of the state orchestra, honors orchestra as well. And it helps because even though if you don't go in music, it does help with how you study and also how you learn new things in the future. And I'm glad that Los Angeles still has a music program similar to Kenosha, where students are given an instrument to use while they're in school so they can learn because it is nowadays expensive to learn a musical instrument for many families. So I'm glad Los Angeles has the same policy that Kenosha used to have. Because in many places in this area now, for students to go in music, parents either have to buy an instrument or they have to rent an instrument. And and when I went to school, basically, you didn't have to do that because when I wanted to learn cello and dish, I asked my music teacher, Mr. Black. I said, well, can I learn cello? He said, sure. So they provided full size cello and other stuff, and that's how I did it like that though. But it's wonderful. So I'd like to thank you for watching Ideas with Diana, and let me know what you think in the comments or on Twitter at Diana180. See you soon.